Figure 1, a map showing the percentage of the population living in urban settlements in different parts of the world. Urban settlements, this is basically where lots of people live, such as towns and cities. Now, you've got a figure, which is not uncommon for the first question in each topic. This one is a map of the world, and you've got a key down the side represented by slightly different colours for the different percentages of the population in these urban settlements. Your question is a 2-mark question, so we should be spending about 2 minutes at maximum on it. It is to describe 2 differences in the percentage of population living in urban settlements in Africa or South America. Now, notice on the map, no place name is given. So to access these questions, you need to know where places are. Everyone needs to know where the continents are as a minimum. Now, we've got Africa, which is this continent here, and you've got South America, which is this one here. So the first mark we can say is in South Africa, the percentage of people living in urban settlements is greater than Africa because there's more dark blue over here. We could also say, maybe for the second point, that there's a greater variety of countries in Africa. We can tell that because obviously there's loads of these different colours, from dark blue all the way across the scale to green and then white as well. So there is a greater variety in Africa compared to South America. Finally, maybe if we want an extra mark, we could say that there are countries in Africa where there is less than 20% of people living in urban areas, and there is no such country in South America. Question 1.2. Study figure 2, a graph showing changes in the world's rural and urban population from 1950 to 2050. Okay, 2-mark question. Using figure 2, which 2 of the following statements about the world's rural and urban populations are true? Shade 2 circles only. So, A, the rural population grew fastest between 2000 and 2010. So, 2000 and 2010, was the red line growing at its fastest level? No, the level was fastest around about 1970s, 1980s, just because the line was a bit steep back then. So no. What about B? The urban population grew more rapidly than the rural population between 1950 and 2000. So 2 lines here. Did the green line, basically, is the green line steeper between 1950 and 2000 compared to the red? 1950 to 2000, yes, that green line is steeper than the red. So the urban population grew faster, so we'll be ticking this box here. Now, C, the urban population is expected to grow more slowly than the rural population from 2015 onwards. So from 2015, is the green line going to be less steep than the red line in the future? So if we look at the future, the answer is no. In fact, the opposite is predicted to happen. So D, the urban population increased by over 2,000 million between 1950 and 2010. So 1950, urban population was around about 800 million, so it's just below that 1,000 million. Did it increase by over 200,000? Well, if we go to 2010, we are looking around about 350 or 3,500, sorry, 3,600. So the difference is a lot more. So yes, we found our 2 correct answers, B and D. Question 1.3. Suggest 2 reasons for the slow rate of urban growth in many high-income countries. Basically, in other words, why are towns and cities in rich countries not really growing? Why aren't people moving towards them? So, 2 marker, 2 minutes, 2 brief reasons to sort of explain why. So, firstly to remember here is, why do cities grow in the first place? They grow mainly because there are lots of job opportunities in cities. particularly in countries like India and China. There's lots of secondary work, manufacturing. So loads of people leave the countryside for a better sort of, opportunity to get well-paid jobs. In high-income countries, the industrialization, the manufacturing happened years and years ago. So one mark could be for saying that many cities in high-income countries are already overcrowded. People are already there. You might say, and you might focus on the idea for the second point, for the fact that, well, industries either are there or have been there, but in a lot of countries, the key term is deindustrialization has happened. This basically means that lots of the manufacturing jobs have left city centres. So as a result, people will also leave and move away. So this is sort of called depopulation, the moving of people sort of away from an area, in this case, the urban areas. Or you could say, and think about lives of maybe where you live. Do a lot of your parents and do a lot of you guys live in the city centre? No? Okay, but maybe some of them do work there. So what do people have in high income countries that allows them to live further away and to commute to the city is good infrastructure, roads. People can afford to take either public transport or cars, their own transport. Or we've also got, obviously, the internet, good internet speeds and connections. So most people either commute or they can work remotely from home. So there isn't a need to go and live in the city centre. So that might explain the slow rate for urban growth. 1.4. To what extent do urban areas in LICs or NEEs provide social and economic opportunities for people? So 6-mark question, roughly 6 minutes worth of writing on it. So for these questions, very similar to the 9-mark questions, can you think of a case study that you can use to help you answer it? And the answer is yes. We've looked at Mumbai. Mumbai is a huge megacity in India. Now, the question is basically saying, do you agree that in places like Mumbai, it provides really good things, and they use the word opportunities, but good things for people in terms of their life, their lifestyle, and economic opportunities? Does it provide people with money? So we can first think of, yes, social opportunities will be things like Mumbai's public hospital, Sion Hospital. It has gone from having 50 beds in 1950 to roughly 1,400 beds a few years ago. So healthcare is improving, and that is an example. Also, the education system is improving. A few years ago, not too many primary and secondary schools. Now there's over 1,000. So you are improving your education, your literacy levels will also improve. And these are good things. These are opportunities for people. In terms of economic opportunities, again, how do people get money? Well, there's lots of different opportunities in Mumbai. For instance, there are lots of call centres, particularly from UK-based companies, such as banks like HSBC and Barclays or BT. There's also Bollywood, one of the biggest film industries in the world, who employ around 70,000 people. There's also lots of what's called informal jobs. These are jobs where people get paid cash in hand, so they don't have to pay any tax. However, there is a phrase that the exam board use quite a lot, and it's the first 3 words: to what extent? Now, to get 5 or 6 out of 6 for this question, we need to balance our answer. So yes, there are good things, but can you think of any negatives for the lives of people in places like Mumbai? And the answer is yes. In terms of sort of the social negatives, the challenges that we call them, there's quite a few. We know, for instance, that over 1 million people in Mumbai live in an illegal settlement, the Dharavi slum. We know that a lot of these people live in very small one-room buildings called chauls, where there is a limited amount of electricity, quite poor sanitation, fresh water is also restricted. There's also diseases that are quite common, such as malaria or cholera. Not only that, but in the wider context of Mumbai, millions and millions of people drive cars, which contribute to noise pollution, air pollution, which might be linked to asthma. There's lots of traffic congestion as well. Not only that, but a nice easy fact to remember is a few years ago, there was a factory that released lots of chemicals and waste into the rivers around Mumbai. And a few dogs actually went into those rivers and came out bright blue. So, to get full marks on this question, we need to be talking and saying that there are some good opportunities, both social and economic. You've got to talk about them both, but also there are some challenges, there are some negatives. 1.5. Which grid square shows part of the rural-urban fringe of Dundee? Shade one circle only for 1 point. So the rural-urban fringe, this is an area right at the edge of the city. The land use normally would be agricultural, basically farmland, greenfield sites. So we have a look at the map. Remember, when you're looking for a grid reference, you've always got to go along the bottom first and then up the stairs. The correct answer here is D. It's 3934. Because in this grid square, remember, it's always going to be represented by the bottom left-hand corner. This is represented on the OS map by the edge of the city, and then we can see we've got woodland here, we've got lots of open space. This typically would highlight where the rural-urban fringe is. 1.6. Discuss the effect of urban sprawl on people and the environment. Use figure 3 and a case study of a major city in the UK. Right, urban sprawl is where the city expands. It basically goes into the countryside because it is growing really, really quickly. You've got to discuss the effects. Now, the effects can be positive, but I guess a lot of this answer will be based on the negatives. So we've got to use the figure, which is an OS map of Dundee, which is this one here, and also a case study that we have studied. So our UK city is Nottingham. So if we use figure 3, basically what are the impacts of the city growing into the countryside? Well, the area most at risk is called the rural-urban fringe, which is basically all the area around the edges of the city. So we do need to reference something from this map. So we could say that around this country park here, there have been lots of roads built, for instance, the A923, lots of houses nearby. And then you just discuss the negatives of having lots of people, lots of major roads near country parks, or we could reference this woodland here. So again, things like increased traffic. You've got things like noise pollution, air pollution. You could also talk about the advantages as well. There's more space for businesses to grow. And if you can quite see, you've got obviously a motel that's nearby. So obviously for them, the land is going to be cheaper and they've got more space. You've got another, I think that says hotel there, which is going to be, again, slightly cheaper than being in the city centre and also more space. In terms of the negatives for our case study, we've looked at the development of the Field Farm site in Stapleford. So this is where you can go down the environmental route. And you can say that lots of fields have been dug up, lots of hedgerows have also disappeared for this new housing development to be put in place. And that can obviously impact on the local wildlife and ecosystems. The fact that we've got is that as Field Farm has been developed into a new housing development, lots of mice who had a habitat and a home in these hedgerows have now invaded into houses nearby. So for this question, just make sure you have to reference this figure 3 and also talk about Nottingham as well.